My Nonno still shakes his head and laughs about it. When his family first arrived in Australia, if you wanted olive oil, you couldn't just duck down to Woolies. You had to go to the chemist to buy a tiny little medicinal bottle of it. Imagine that. If you grew up in an Aussie suburb like Brunswick, Leichhardt or Fitzroy between the 50s and 80s, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You didn't learn about the seasons from a calendar. You learned it from the smell of 500 kilos of Roma tomatoes simmering in a garage down the street. It was a smell that didn't belong to the meat and 3 veg establishment. It was the smell of our grandparents building a new Australia, one backyard at a time. If you're new here, hi, I'm Dee. I make nostalgic videos celebrating Australian history and the beautiful untold stories of the people who made us who we are today. If that sounds like your kind of place, I'd absolutely love for you to subscribe and join our little community. So, go grab a cuppa, or a short black, sit back, relax, and let's take a stroll down memory lane. For our Italian families arriving post-war, the backyard wasn't a place for a quiet game of cricket. It was a full-on resistance movement against the great Australian lawn. But it wasn't just a cute hobby. These were hard-working migrants dropped into a country where their staple foods simply didn't exist. If you wanted to eat like you were back in the village, you had to grow it yourself in the Aussie dirt. By mid-morning on Sauce Day, the Hills Hoist wasn't for laundry. It was structural support for the family's agricultural operation. And you all know the real heart of the home wasn't the pristine lounge room inside. The good room, where Nonno kept the couches wrapped in thick plastic so nobody could actually sit on them. No, the real heart of the home was the garage kitchen. Concrete floors, a flickering fluorescent light, and a massive gas ring hooked up to a rusted Alga cylinder. You'd see Nonno in his sleeveless Bonds singlet, presiding over crates of tomatoes. There was a specific rhythm to it. The turning of the manual spremi pomodoro machine, and then the sound that defined our childhoods. The clink, hiss, clack of the manual bottle capper. Every bottle of passata was a recycled VB long neck, capped tight to preserve the summer for a winter minestrone. Inside the house, the morning ritual meant the moka pot on the stove poured straight into those little amber Duralex glasses. In an era of instant tea, that dark, intense coffee was a quiet revolution. As the weather cooled down toward Easter, the scent of the suburbs shifted. Now it was the smell of the souvla. The Greek backyard was a sanctuary of Mediterranean blue painted gates, concrete columns, and whitewashed pots made from recycled 4-gallon feta tins. If you peeked over the corrugated iron fence, you'd see trees that historically had no business being there. The smuggled cuttings. A fig tree branch wrapped in damp newspaper and hidden in the suitcase all the way from Kalamata. An olive sapling tucked inside a heavy coat pocket. These trees were literal pieces of the motherland, taking root in our clay. On a Sunday morning, the neighbourhood was a symphony of wood smoke. The lamb turned slowly on the spit, a ritual of lemon, oregano and salt that completely redefined the suburban air. You'd see Yaya in her summer kitchen, hands dusted with flour, rolling out phyllo for spanakopita, across a table covered in cold-pressed oil. Slowly, the garlic war of the 50s, when kids were teased at school for their pungent lunches, began to thaw. And it started with the Deli Revolution. The local corner shops and milk bars began to transform. The smell of white bread and tobacco was replaced by the glorious aroma of hanging salami, giant wheels of provolone, and open barrels of olives. These shops became the town squares of our suburbs. You could go in to buy a continental roll and hear 3 different languages before you reached the counter. Let me know in the comments, what was the one treat your Nonno or Yaya always bought for you from the local deli? I'd love to read your memories. As the food spread, the fences came down. A bottle of home-pressed wine was passed over the wire. A paper bag of sun-warm smuggled figs was traded for a chat about the footy. Our families didn't just live in the suburbs, they softened them. They replaced the dry rose of colonial planning with the lush, edible chaos of the Mediterranean. They taught a young nation that a garden could be a pantry, a garage could be a ballroom, and a meal was never just about eating, it was about belonging. Today, a lot of those original gardens are gone, replaced by townhouses and minimalist landscaping. But if you look closely, you can still spot them. They are the houses with the massive 50-year-old lemon trees, the overgrown grapevines over the driveway, and the outdoor wood-fired ovens that the new owners might not even know how to use. To the older generation watching this, you didn't just come to Australia, you transformed and fed it.